number you have reached.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
From college football to the NFL to high school football.
365 days a year.
Hear it all on Jackson Sports Authority.
Live and local.
At 105.9 The Zone and online
At thezone1059.com.
Now let's get back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly.
Fifth day of August, 2024. Champion the Chair Sports Maven, abbreviated show. Sorry. Joe, we're on till 6. 2 hours today. Full show the rest of the week. We're going to be on the road a lot. On the road with some high school football, a little gaming at sports, the sports book at Ameristar. We'll tell you all about that as we move forward. Glad to be here with you for 2 hours. Chris Lange will join us at 5 o'clock. We'll go 5 to 5:30, talking a little college and NFL. We're brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out, play today. 4 great restaurants on the property. Also, the Bottleneck Blues Bar, you can enjoy there as well. As Flowtown Ghost says, oh, so we are working today. Yes, of course we're working. Trying to put out some fires in the building, and we are here. But y'all don't want to care. You don't care about my excuses. You just want us here, and I understand that. And that's why we're here right now. So let's let bygones be bygones and move forward. Hey, text us 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Make your house a home today. 13 locations, renovated, new location in Pearl City. Pearl City, other end of Pearl from where Beaver lives, on Pearson Road, south of I-20. Had to get my bearings there. Get out and see our friends at Cowboy Maloney's. You can always call us 601-897-1059. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. ecmalone.com is the website. 8337-MALONE. Commercial residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. And we're on X, at Jake Wim, brought to you by Clinton Body Shop. Locations in Clinton and Richland. OEM factory certified. All the manufacturers you trust at Clinton Body Shop. How are you, sir? Now, I did watch the highlights of the race, the fantastic finish in the Olympics. I did see that. Because you have been asking me, did I watch any of the Olympics? I did see that on X. And did you see the story about the USA basketball team? About their accommodations that are much better than everybody else? They're spending millions to stay away. I kind of get it because they are, quote unquote, superstars in the world, but they're not staying with the rest of the people. They're staying away from the people. So is that right or wrong, or does it matter?
Yeah, it's wrong, but unfortunately, I have to tell you that this dates all the way back to our real dream team.
Oh, okay.
92.
So
they
this
started this, which is a little bit disappointing because that's we talked about how that is the dream team. The rest of this nonsense can't measure up. You know, we love to look back and we love our Jordan and Bird and Magic and Ewing and all that, but they started it, and that kind of hurts my heart, but it is how it is. It's pretty loose, though. The men's and women's basketball teams, the only ones not staying in the Olympic Village. Because we're basketball players. We deserve more.
So this didn't just start. We can't throw it on these guys and girls. It goes all the way back to the Birds and the Jordans, Johnsons, way back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it said they were used to first class accommodations. They didn't want to give it up.
You know, I get it, kind of, like because of, well, not the first class maybe we don't want to be around the commoners because, you know, the commoners may just not leave us alone because we're quote unquote celebrities. But it is supposed to be one of the things we figured out about the Olympic Games this year. None of it's fair. Guys can fight women. Players can live off the field. They can pay for this. It's not a fair. The whole thing is not fair, is it?
Yeah, it's fair.
Oh, come on. Let's see. Buffalo Chris, man. I like Colbert and Harry D, but I miss you guys. Good to hear from y'all. Good to be here, Buffalo Chris. Pasta Joe says, sweet. Thanks, PT, for MSU. I bet a rewound that 100-meter final Oh, he rewound the 100-meter final 20 times yesterday. One of the coolest sport events I've witnessed. That was really cool. The finish was really cool. And I will say that because if you look at the still image of the fight, when they crossed the line, the gentleman from Jamaica, his torso was flexed in. And, I'm not a savant when it comes to track and field, obviously. But they said your torso is what the measurement is. It's not your foot. I did not realize that. So his foot was across the line, but his torso was concave in, like a C, where the Americans was concave out, like an inverse C. So when his torso crossed first, it was just split second. Very interesting finish. So the coaches poll is out. Are you excited for the coaches poll? The fact that these coaches took all of this time to vote on college football, which we know that didn't happen. We'll pretend that it did. For the bootlickers out there, we'll pretend that this happened. This is really more of your sports information directors. Georgia, number 1 in the coaches poll, to no surprise. Ohio State 2. It's going to mirror Vegas. Oregon 3, Texas 4. That is Vegas through and through. Bama 5, Ole Miss checks in at 6. That's going to be pretty average amongst what we've seen with the other polls that are out there. Notre Dame 7, Michigan 8, Penn State 9. And you got to go all the way down to Florida State at number 10 to get a team that's not in the Big Ten or not in the SEC. And I think this is we're going to see this now moving forward. SEC, Big Ten going to litter the top 10. Missouri at 11, LSU 12. Then you go Utah. So in the top 15 picks, you go Clemson at 14, Tennessee 15. 3 are not SEC, Big Ten. 3 of them. At 16 is Oklahoma, 17 Kansas State, 18 Oklahoma State, 19 Miami, the Hurricanes, 20 is Texas A&M, 21 Arizona, 22 North Carolina State, 23 USC, 24 is Kansas, and 25 is Iowa. Do you have any thoughts on the coaches poll? Do you pay attention to the coaches poll? What's more relevant to you, a CBS Sports poll or the coaches poll?
Once again, 2 loose choices. I'll go coaches on that.
So there that is. Brett McMurphy went ahead and gave his AP Top 25 ballot. I love what Brett McMurphy does. He is a man of increase. There's no doubt. He went ahead and gave it, and then not only that, he said, I'm going to go ahead and give you my top 40, 1 through 40. His number 1 team in the country, Oregon. This is a man that knows what he's doing. The hell with Ohio State and Georgia. They're not number 1 and 2. It's Oregon, and he sees that. Oregon Ducks, best team in the country. Brett McMurphy has them at number 1. We'll get into some of this. Georgia 2. He's got Ohio State 3, Texas 4, Alabama 5, and he's got Ole Miss at 6. And then it's very similar down there. So what do you think about McMurphy's choice of Oregon at number 1? I'm telling you, I'm going to give you another shot. I do it every week. Are you ready to get on the big boat with a lot of ducks and a lot of colors?
I feel like if I wouldn't have had all this hot air in front of me continually asking me, I feel like I naturally might have gotten on board by now.
You'd migrate like a duck.
But you know how I feel about that.
So Michigan is at number 17. Michigan may be in more problems. You see that they may have more problems on their hands. The Michigan Wolverines, and what's interesting about this is I don't know that at the end of the day any of this is tied to Jim Harbaugh. It sounds like it's tied to staffers. We'll get into that. Notre Dame projected starting freshman left tackle Charles Jengish suffered a shoulder injury Saturday at practice and will undergo season-ending surgery. Jengish made first start in the Sun Bowl versus Oregon State, but he was expected to be a big starter there. He is out. Did you see over the weekend Baylor staffers, the shirts they were they're wearing? It says, "We pay players." It's just what it says. They're being upfront and honest and said, "Hey, we'll pay." Everybody's paying, but Baylor now putting it out there on Front Street. Speaking of Michigan, Michigan's Sharon Moore, the new head football coach, could be facing NCAA penalties related to the Connor Stallions case, according to a draft of the NCAA's Notice of Allegations. Says this is a draft, not a final version of the allegations. More details are coming per Pete Thamel. Now, obviously, I can't read Pete's stuff, so I'll have to defer to you on that. But Ross Dellinger says we explored some of this in his podcast this week, but much more details from ESPN and the NCAA draft on the sign stealing notice of allegations expected to be formally filed to Michigan. Also, little NFL here. Ian Rappaport, Bengals coach Zach Taylor told reporters the defensive end Cam Sample tore his Achilles and is out for the season. He called that loss huge for a consistent player and consistent person. So the Bengals are now down one of their defensive linemen, which in the NFL, you start dropping 2, 3, 4 players, it gets real squirrely real quick. We're brought to you by our friends at A1 Gear and Auto, your hometown vehicle specialist, anything under the hood, front and to back, 15 plus years down on 49. A1 has you covered if you got problems with your air conditioner, your engine, starters, alternators. They can do it all. 601-939-1060. That's 601-939-1060. Monday edition of the program. Back in a bit.
And action!
We got that and a whole lot more around here. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
What's the score?
He's got that, along with the hottest sports stories of the day
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online
at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by our friends at Ameristar Casino and Gutter Masters. Custom gutter solutions, screen guards, maintenance, and more. 601-503-7755. GutterMastersLLC.com. Get protected. Today, Chris Landry coming up at the top of hour number 3. We'll go 30 minutes, talk a little college football as we are off and running with practices and all kinds of stuff. Netflix has released its trailer for the new season of Untold, including, quote, sign stealer with Connor Stallions. Speaking on Michigan's alleged sign-stealing scheme, I have not watched this. I would ask you, but you don't do Netflix. Are you going to do Netflix just to watch this? Not even. Do you want my login? Would you watch it if I gave you my login?
Oh, you mean the one that you've offered before that you've asked the same question? Would you do it if I gave you my login? And guess what? I never got that login.
But I don't know that you ever said, yes, I would love your login.
Of course I did. Who's going to say no to a free Netflix?
I'll send it to you.
But I can't do it because you're going to get charged. Remember? They cracked down on that password sharing.
That's right. They'll recognize your IP address as being in Brandon and not down there in the county, and they'll get me. That's what'll happen. Ohio State Athletics Director Ross Bjork is evaluating all new revenue opportunities that could include naming rights for Ohio Stadium. Quote, we have to put everything on the table, said Ross Bjork. Naming rights of the stadium, the jersey patch is a conversation. So even the tippy top of college football, and when I say tippy top, I'm talking about the big money dudes, they're even thinking about this. Ohio Stadium. What would be a good naming right for, like, Jackson State ought to get out ahead of this. They're talking about a new stadium. That I don't know that that's ever going to happen just because of financing and, there's a lot that's got to happen with that. Maybe it will. But maybe why don't they go ahead and get the vet redone and just name it? What naming rights need to be on the vet? You don't have any ideas? Like a Wendy's? Maybe something local?
Well, it'd have to be local if we're talking about locally Jackson State.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, it can be a product or service. Amazon. I mean, it could. Who knows? You got to get creative here, and that's. I think you're even seeing my point in all this is if the tippy top is getting creative, you got to get creative if you're not one of the elites. I would think you would have to, wouldn't you? Because, I mean, think about this. Ohio State's not hurting for money. Their TV revenue share in the Big Ten is better than the SEC. They are not hurting, by all accounts, unless they're being frivolous with money. But then you're talking about another infusion of money because I can promise you, whatever they decided Ohio Stadium is to be named, that's not going to be cheap. And if they're talking about patches on the shoulder or wherever they put them on the Ohio State University jersey, that's not going to be cheap either. I mean, you're talking about millions of revenue dollars. So it's just something to think about. Let's see here. Andy Staples reports, talking about the Florida Gators, the QB dynamics at Florida this season. He says, feel like 2006. Oh, boy. He says, minus the national title contention. The Mertz-Lagway combination could be different than the Leak Tebow because of factors that simply didn't exist 18 years ago. Now, we'll get into this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what already doesn't exist. Chris Leak was a bona fide player in the SEC. Graham Mertz had a very, season last year. So Chris Leak, much better than him. And then Lagway, I mean, he's got a lot of accolades and recruiting stuff, but to Tim Tebow? Is this just a hit piece for clicks? How can you say Graham Mertz, DJ Lagway, very similar to Chris Leak, Tim Tebow? Other than the fact it's two dudes. And they both play for Florida.
Look up Mertz's season here. Are you misremembering this? Thought he had a nice word of the year.
It is
nice
word of the year.
Season.
Let's see.
What, 73% completion?
Let's go look at Graham Mertz and see what he did last year. I'm on the wrong end of the spectrum here. Hold on, let me go back up here in the deck. There we go. Yeah, Mertz, 73% completion, 20 touchdowns, 3 picks. Was he a runner? Did this dude run? No, he didn't run. Minus 75 yards on 62 carries and 4 touchdowns. Those are going to be close to the goal line here. But let me go into the game log. That's what I like to go into the game logs and see what these dudes did in games. Now, they lost the game at Utah to open the season, 24-11, after beating Utah 2 years ago. I mean, Mertz didn't have a bad day. He completed 71% of his passes, a touchdown and a pick. He threw for 333 yards. McNeese State doesn't count. Against Tennessee, he threw a touchdown and threw for 166, 79% completion. Charleston doesn't count. Kentucky on the road, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Completed 83% of his passes for 244 yards. Now, you talk about a dink and dunk passer. This dude's a dink and dunk passer. High completion percentages, but, 244, 284, 280. Against Vandy, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Against South Carolina, 62.5%. He did throw for 423 against them. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses down the stretch. Are we going to just frame him up as a nice quarterback? What do you think when you look through all that?
Yeah, he's nice quarterback. That's about it.
I don't know that we're going to confuse him for an elite style quarterback, but we'll get into some of that. Also, preseason college football predicting the AP poll. This is courtesy of On3 because the AP comes out, I think, at the end of this week. They're predicting, it's the same. Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Michigan, Penn State, Florida State. It's the same stuff. Except they have Iowa in their prediction. And I don't think Iowa was in the coaches poll. Current head coaches with the best winning percentage going into the season. Current top 10 college football coaches winning percentage. It's hard to believe Ryan Day has the best winning percentage of all active coaches today. 87.5% winning percentage. And we are to be told that if this man doesn't win the national title, he's going to get fired. I ask this again. What is going on in Ohio State that we don't know about to put this man in a position to where he has to basically go win everything or he's gone and he leads the country in winning percentage?
Michigan. Your rivals are so deep in your brain space. That's what it all comes down to, I still think.
I think you're probably right. Sadly. Kirby Smart, number 2 on this list, 85.5% winning percentage. John Summerall, Tulane. Now, he comes over from Troy. It's going to be interesting to see John Summerall as he continues up that coaching, really good tenure at Troy. He comes over now to Tulane. If he can keep that Tulane machine going, 85.2. Kurt Signetti comes over from James Madison. He will be the head football coach at Indiana, 82.6%. Dan Lanning at number 5, Oregon, 81.5. Lincoln Riley, South Carolina, 80.4. Kalen DeBoer tied for 6 at 80.4. Dabo Swinney, 79.8 at Clemson. There's old Jeff Traylor at number 9, UTSA. I don't think that man's leaving UTSA now. I thought he would have years ago. 73.6. He has done nothing but turn that program into a very respectable Group of 5 program. Josh Heupel, number 10, 73.3. We're brought to you by Boykin Contractors. Let them help you with any remodeling needs that you may have. From interior to exterior, they do it all. Severe storm damage, they can help you there as well. 601. You can call or text 601-951-7336. Also, find them on Facebook as well. Boykin Contractors, here to make your remodeling dreams and home expansion a reality. Back in a bit.
Turning to sports.
With Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive.
One of the last pure pleasures I have left in my life.
Yeah, maybe you ought to get a life first, okay?
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online
At The Zone, 1059.com.
Chris Landry will join us at 5 o'clock. We'll talk a little NFL, college. We talked all NFL last week with the changes in rules, the changes with the kickoff, the changes with the onside kick, or now shall we say the killing of the onside kick that the National Football League has done. We'll get into some of that. Well, not necessarily that, but National Football League news and the college circuit as well. We're brought to you by Malone Roofing Services. Give us a call, 601-897-1059. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. You can find Malone Roofing Services at ecmalone.com, and you can also call them at 8337-MALONE. It's hard to believe we only got 3 more Saturdays until college football, but that is where we are. 3 more Saturdays until college football, and, of course, high school football you'll have next week. I believe MRA plays on the 15th, and you'll have MAIS action on the 16th and the 23rd. On the 23rd, you'll also have, and it may be the 22nd for some, you'll have, quote, preseason fall games. I don't even know why we call it fall. It just doesn't fit right. But fall games coming up on Thursday and Friday. And then everybody's playing ball on the 29th and 30th. I'll be out at Madison Central tomorrow as we start a high school football road tour. We'll go Madison Central this week on Tuesday. We're going Hartfield on Wednesday. And then we're going Jackson Academy on Thursday. And then, of course, next week we'll hit some more. We're going to be going to Brandon and Pearl, Clinton, Northwest Rankin, Florence. We're going to some others as well. Holmes County Central. So we're going to be moving around a little bit during the month of August, getting you set and giving a day to each, or not each, but as many high schools as we can. I wish we could do them all, but unfortunately that is not the case. And being right here in the central part of the state, we're going to take care of our most of our schools here. Let's see here. As we move along here. So it looks like Kenny Pickett is struggling in Eagles camp. Do you see this? So Kenny Pickett having camp struggles with the Eagles. That should make you Steeler fans feel pretty good, right? When the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett with the 20th pick in the 2022 NFL draft, they were hoping to have drafted a successor to Ben Roethlisberger as the team's franchise quarterback. The fact that Pickett had played his college ball at Pittsburgh certainly played a factor in the Steelers, that whole kumbaya moment, hometown boy coming over to play, but that never worked out. But the Pickett era turns out to be a disaster in terms of his on-the-field production. While the well-coached Steelers found ways to win games, Pickett was atrocious, throwing just 13 touchdowns and 713 attempts over 2 years with a passer rating on under 80. The Steelers decided to part ways with Pickett this offseason, just 2 years after making him a first-round pick. They shipped him off to Philly in exchange for some draft picks and some compensation. But Kenny Pickett was supposed to slot into the backup quarterback job behind Jalen Hurts without much trouble, but reports are that he had a terrible start to training camp and the backup job may be slipping away, courtesy of Elliott Shore Parks on X. Might be time to have the Tanner McKee over Kenny Pickett discussion. Would be very curious to see them both get reps with the first team offense just to see who does better. It might be McKee. Who is this Tanner McKee? Where did he come from? I don't remember this guy. You know this guy? I don't even know who this is. So it looks like the Eagles could have problems if Jalen Hurts goes down, which a lot of teams would. But Kenny Pickett, are you surprised Kenny Pickett is struggling? Me either. Oh, small hands Pickett. Never understood. You know, that means, I'm trying to think, did any quarterback pan out in that class? No, it's just Mr. Irrelevant, right? Same class, isn't it? So it's literally just the San Francisco quarterback, and that's it, which he's going to get paid handsomely come next year. Let's see, PT for MSU. What day did you say you'd be at JA? Wednesday? Yeah. Thursday. Thursday at JA. Wednesday at Hartfield. Tomorrow at Madison Central. All right. Yeah, so we got that with Kenny Pickett. Got fights going on at training camp. Did you say Daniel Jones is starting some of these? What is he trying to do? When did he become a brawler? Multiple fights break out in Giants-Lions joint practice with Daniel Jones leading the charge. Yeah, Daniel Jones getting in the middle of a scuffle one play after Brian Daboll was ticked that Jones had his arm hit by an offender. And I'm sitting here looking at some of this as, this is just the two teams get together. You got a little melee scuffle going on, and here goes Daniel Jones running right in the middle of the pile. So, do you respect him for that? Because there ain't a whole lot to respect Daniel Jones' game anyway. But do you respect that he wants to fight? That doesn't change anything for you? 601-885-3776. Got some interesting rankings here. Speaking of rankings, today is rankings day because of the coaches poll. Coaches poll is out. And then we got some interesting way that some beat writers are ranking divisions in the National Football League. For instance, ranking divisions by wide receivers. So if you just ranked the wide receivers, of course, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown helped make the NFC North number one. Excuse me. A breakdown of each NFL's 8 divisions and the top wide receivers. So just kind of combing through some of this. The AFC West, they rank 8th, the entire AFC West. You've got the Raiders with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. Now, the Chiefs, that's a star-studded group. Rashee Rice, you got Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, Kadarius Toney. The Broncos have Cortland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Mims Jr. The Chargers, Quentin Johnston, Joshua Palmer, and Ladd McConkey along with DJ Chark. It says the AFC West was the obvious last-place pick here, despite Devontae Adams' excellence. He totaled 103 catches and went for 1144 and 8 receiving touchdowns despite Las Vegas cycling through Garoppolo, Hoyer, and 4th-round rookie Aiden O'Connell. So that's a down year for him, but a year that kept him in the four-man club of players, at least 100 catches. And then, of course, it goes through and talks about some of these other guys here. But this beat writer, CBSSports.com, ranks that division last 7th, AFC North. Bengals with, 2 big receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Ravens have Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, and then they got Bateman. And the Browns have Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore. Steelers with just one, George Pickens. So they rank them 7th. 6th, the NFC South. Saints with Olave and Shaheed. It's interesting. The Panthers, they have some guys. They just don't have, they got some guys that can play wide receiver. They just don't have a lot of guys that can play in the trenches. But they're 6th. 5th in this list is the AFC East. Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and Beckham Jr. Are we ready to see a resurgence of Beckham Jr. this year? Well, you don't think so? I mean, everybody's got to worry about Hill and Waddle. I mean, all Beckham has to do is just play. And he should catch a lot of footballs, wouldn't he? Or is my reasoning here off? If he's healthy, he should have a pretty good year. Would you take him as a flyer in a fantasy football league? I think he probably should. I think he is set to have a nice year. A nice year. Not a great year. Nice year. Hill, Waddle, they're going to eat up a chunk of the yards. But the fact that defenses have to account for a cheetah and a racehorse, and now you got Beckham in here who is on the back end of his career. If he's healthy, he should just pop open. Like literally, boop, sitting out there all by himself in green grass. It should be pitch and catch. Tua to Beckham. Shouldn't it? I mean, come on.
Okay, so allow a non-Dolphins fan to jump in here because that's what's clouding this for you. You think this is why you're looking at it this way. He was with Lamar Jackson. Can we say Lamar Jackson is a far superior to Tua?
Yes.
Yes. He had 37 catches. 37 catches with Lamar Jackson. So he's going to go now with Tua and tear it up?
I mean, you have to think Mike McDaniel. Who has a better offensive coordinator? Baltimore or Miami?
Miami.
So we got a trade-off there. But I get what you're saying. Why are you trying to kill my fantasy? Trying to kill it. I feel like he's got 1 year. He could be special there. Maybe. Probably not. Let's see here real quickly. Colonel Mustard. Colonel Mustard here. Cortland Sutton went 10 straight games with a TD last season. Sleeper in fantasy last year. What do you think about that? From our good friend Colonel Mustard. A little fantasy advice. Hey, we're brought to you by Mac Hike in Madison Gluckstadt. Get that great Mac Hike feeling. Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Chevrolet in Madison Gluckstadt. New and pre-owned inventory. They have it all on site. Also online at MacHikeMadison.com. Time out on the floor. Monday edition of the program. Back in a bit.
It's time to get
back in the game
with Jake Wimberly and the Afternoon Drive.
That's entertainment.
On the station that specializes in the Mississippi sports you love.
Now we're talking.
Live and local on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Mississippi Legends Grill. Get out this week. Bingo, trivia, kids eat free on Thursdays. Fried chicken, fried catfish, everything you like. Michelob Ultra, Bud Light. Drink it responsibly, courtesy of Southern Beverage. Corner of Castlewoods Drive and Lakeland Drive. Everyone knows your name. Chris Landry coming up in the next segment. All right, Jeremy on the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Lamar Jackson is not a better passing quarterback than Tua. Hell, is Jackson even in the top 10 in total yards last year? Well, let me look. Did we knee-jerk that? Far superior to Tua? Because I even said yes and agreed with you. Did you make me agree to something that I didn't really need to be agreeing on?
Probably. Yeah, Tua did throw for a bunch of yards last year.
Let's see. Lamar Jackson last year.
I think he was around 3,800.
You're right in the ballpark. 3,678. We'll give him 3,700. 24 touchdowns. 7 interceptions for Lamar Jackson. I mean, it was a good year. 67% completion percentage. I think most quarterbacks would take that. If we look at Tua, let's see. Let's look at Tua's stats. If we go to Tua last year, threw for 4,624 yards, 29 touchdowns, but he did throw for 14 interceptions. So he doubled Lamar up on interceptions, and let's see, had him by 5 on touchdowns. But the interceptions were a problem at times. But now they throw it a lot. They throw it a whole lot. As far as completion percentage for Tua, he was at 69% completion percentage. So, I mean, a little bit better there. But Tua threw the football. Let's see. This stat number doesn't give me that. But anyway, both very, very productive players. Who would you take going into this year? Lamar Jackson? Now, the general populace would take Lamar Jackson, but would you take Lamar or take Tua?
Do I have the receivers he has around him?
Yeah.
I'm taking the Dolphins.
Yeah, you can't take Tua's receivers away from him. If you do that, then well, let's see. Where did my receiver rankings go? Here we go. So Dolphins have Hill, Waddle, Beckham, and this is the AFC East was ranked fifth. Let's see. Fourth is the NFC East. We'll come back to that. The South. And number 2 on this list is the NFC West. Number 1 is the NFC North. So where did they put? I am looking for the Ravens in this. Or maybe because they're back the other way. The AFC. All right, so he's throwing to Zay Flowers, Aguilar, and Rashad Bateman. Would you take those over Miami's receivers?
No, that's why I asked you, do I get Miami's receivers with Tua?
Yeah.
Because that's a huge factor.
But what if you put Lamar Jackson with those wide receivers?
I'll take Lamar Jackson.
So it is all about those wide receivers, for sure. It's hard to believe Mike Evans is still a factor for Tampa Bay. Is he really a factor?
Yes.
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, are they better than Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed for New Orleans?
Yeah, I think so. I like Shaheed. Couple more years. They just got to have more time. You can't compare these people who've been around 2 or 3 years to Mike Evans. Don't even put, you know what? Miss me with that, Jake.
That is true.
Quote your friend.
Yeah, your TV guy. Cowboys have nobody. CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. And Lamb, is he still holding out? Is he still out there on the holdout? Dak has nobody to throw to. He's throwing to pedestrians in camp. Think about that. And he's handed it off to Fat Zeke 2.0. I'm telling you, the Cowboys are trying to do this man in. I firmly believe this. He has nothing. Nothing. Are they doing this on purpose?
No, Jerry Jones says they're all in.
All in on what? Yeah, if you go to the number, let's see. So I'm trying to say, is there anybody that has a trio better than Miami? The Jags have Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis. The Colts have, well, it doesn't matter what the Colts have because they've got a quarterback that's going to be injured throwing to them. They've got Pittman, Downs, and Mitchell. The NFC West. All right, so let me ask you this. Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, and Juan Jennings. Are they better than Miami's receivers?
That's close. I don't know. It's up there, but you go look at the Rams, too. Same division.
Kupp and Nakua.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 2 studs there. I'm going to tell you who you better watch this year, just for fun. The Seahawks have DK Metcalf. They have Tyler Lockett, and then they've got Smith Janigba from Ohio State. Rookie nonetheless, but high-end rookie. That could get interesting. They are ranked the number 2, and I would take this one over number 1 here, but they've got Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson for the Cardinals. Of course, they catch balls from man-baby Tyler Murray. Number 1, NFC North. The Bears have some potential here with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Odunze from Washington. Vikings have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. All right, so they list 4 for the Packers. The Packers have a better wide receiver unit than the Dolphins. Yeah. Christian Watkins, Romeo Dubes, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks.
No.
Does anybody have a better trio than the Dolphins? So you agree with me on that, which means you would agree with me that OBJ.
I'm not putting this whole discussion has been a trio. You keep trying to shoehorn Beckham in this. I can give you Hill and Waddle without a second thought, but that's where it's getting dicey. That's where because you keep trying to make it a trio. It's not a trio. It's that duo with, here's mostly washed Beckham thrown in too.
Old spare tire Beckham. Is that where we're sure? If anybody can get it out of him, though, it's going to be Miami Mike, right? He's going to figure out how to put him in that mix. And I'm telling you, if Beckham wants to have a year kind of where he comes back out and makes a splash for 1 year, it's this year. Because you can't cover the other two. Teams have a hard enough time doing that. And now the fact that if Beckham could just play a little bit, could he become himself from 4 years ago?
Nope.
You don't think so? Mm-mm. I may have to see what Chris Landry. I'll be curious what Chris thinks about this. He may just tell me he's washed up. We'll get into some quarterbacks too. What the rankings of quarterbacks? I'll tell you this right now: they are not high on the AFC South. Number one quarterback division. They give it to the North. I don't know that you can disagree with that. Russell Wilson for the Steelers, Watson or Jameis Winston for the Browns, Jackson and Burrow. We're brought to you by Subway. Eat fresh, eat local. Make it what you want. On the Reservoir, 317 Village Square near Shaggy's, 626 Grants Ferry Road. Back in a bit.
Becoming a professional race car driver takes time. Quitting smoking does too. It's not about stopping in one day. It's about starting with day one. Get the resources and support you need to quit smoking at cancer.org/smokeout.
WRKS Pickens Jackson, where it's
Time
Time to take a ride. Yes, we're back with Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive. It's live, it's local, and it's on
ESPN 105.9 The Zone and
online at thezone1059.com.
Hour 3 brought to you by Capital Grill in Jackson, 5050 I-55 North, Suite F. Capital Grill, your happy hour and afternoon destination. Get a Michelob Ultra, Bud Light. Please drink it responsibly. And, of course, grab an appetizer or meal. 18 TVs to get the game of your choice. Continue to watch the Olympics. Get caught up on your pro and college football. Grab a game of pool and more at Capital Grill in Jackson. Make sure to find them on Facebook and on their website as well, capitalgrillatjackson.com. We're also brought to you by Maristar Casino. And we're glad to have in our good friend Chris Landry, LandryFootball.com, Landry Football and X. Chris, welcome in, sir. It is August 5th. It is almost here.
It is. It's getting closer and closer. I don't know where the time's gone, but it's here. You're right.
It is. So, Chris, I have to ask. I know the answer is going to be no, but just for fun, do you get all giddy for the coaches poll? And why do we call this the coaches poll still? Are we really to believe that the coaches are voting on this?
No. No, I don't. I always remember Spurrier would say that because he's the one that would admit to anything, I guess. He just said he voted Duke in the top 25 every year, regardless how bad they were, how good they were. He just, I wouldn't take it seriously. And no, I'm not anticipating it. At the top, you'll see the usual suspects, and then there'll be some surprises. The only thing I'm concerned about is, are you going to use that as some sort of a guide if you're voting? And I don't like that. I think we really need to 3 or 4 games at least to get a feel for who are the best teams.
No, I agree with you 100%. Now, when you say who are you voting, are you referring to the College Football Playoff Committee?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they don't. I think it's just natural to begin to think that certain. They look at it as a certain, starting point. I think the reason why we have the committee starting to October because it gives you enough weeks. But I do think there's some inherent biases on how a team is ranked preseason. I do. I think it's only human. So that's the only thing that would concern me about it.
I wasn't even going to go down this way, but you bring up some interesting questions, and I've got some NFL stuff I want to get with you on. As well. So you go into the year, for instance, and we're just going to use today's coaches poll as the most recent example. So Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Texas 4. I don't think the committee would have problems with those teams simply because they're in your face so much. Alabama, even at 5, if they win, Ole Miss at 6. But if you get down, for instance, let's just say a team like Oklahoma at 16, and I'm just picking one out of the back end of half. Where do you rank Oklahoma? Are they really watching all these games? Like, for instance, we know someone like yourself does. We know other people that are in the business that are, knee deep in the weeds, so to speak. On Cole Kublik, he watches games. You have to feel like he does. He puts the stuff out there. Are these people on this committee really watching these teams?
Yeah, that concerns me. So you make a great point. All right, so, and let's remind everybody, not that they need reminding, but for this conversation, we're picking 12. And so when you start to look at, well, they got, this many wins over top 20, okay, you're basing that on what? Because you start looking at a team right now and trying to figure out, it is not that difficult to say, hey, Georgia's really good. Now, whether you want to put them 1 or 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but you're exactly right. The difference between somebody ranked 16th or 40th, really, you don't really know. Well, if there's a perception that one team is better and they get ranked early, then they're ranked against a team that won a game, and then they say, well, yeah, they at the time they were ranked. Well, why would they rank that? I mean, it's based on 4 weeks or inherent biases that they were ranked, not overtly, but just, well, Oklahoma's pretty good. Started off in the top 20. I don't say that, but you think they might think that, and that's one of the things. So for me, I don't really do it. I don't have to rank them necessarily, but this is maybe how I think a team is, going into the season and might be pretty good. It may be completely wrong, and I don't know that it's easy for everybody to justify that. We were completely wrong on that team.
Chris Landry on your radio Monday edition of the program. Make sure to find him at Landry Football, also LandryFootball.com. Yeah, because I wonder. I mean, there's money to be made on these shows, right? These shows that they start doing the college football playoff. Each Tuesday they do the drop of people watch it. You can sell it. You can monetize it. There's money to be made, advertising and such. Will we ever get to a point where a committee is not needed? We don't need a committee for the National Football League. We don't need a committee for Division II, NAIA, high school football, Chris. We don't need a committee, but we have to have one in college.
Yeah, I think we could be going to that, because if you start to think about it, do we have everything at some point where 2 major conferences and we have at-larges or we have spots available, kind of like, let's use the NFL as an example. We don't need a committee there. We never have, of course. But we, all the time you hear these people, not that it matters, they rank who are the top teams in pro football. We don't really get all that upset over it, or you shouldn't, because if they make it, they get in. But it's possible that you could have a pretty good team that, not so much anymore since we've added so many, but still possibility that you've got a weaker team gets in automatically because they won a weak division, a 4-team division, versus maybe a team that doesn't win their division, but they're in a much stronger division. Well, think about that in terms of college football. I think we get to the point where, all right, the top, the 3 or 4 teams in the big conferences get in, and if we've just got 2, then it takes it out of it a little bit. But then, I wonder, are we ever going to get comfortable enough to say that, 4 teams from the SEC or the Big Ten should make it? I don't know that I ever want to think that. I think because there could be a really good team, or a couple of them, that are deserving that are outside that league, and I think we need to allow for that. So it's going to be more difficult because of the amount of teams, but since we're going to 12, if we go to 16, you can see that. Hey, you win, maybe you break it down in the conference and divisions. I think there's a formula, because we have them in pro sports, by which we can eliminate the committee, but you just hit it. People are going to sit there and, just clamor for every Tuesday when the committee comes out on the first poll. I can't believe they got this team 6 over 8, and it's like, oh, my goodness, are we really having that? Does that really warrant a discussion? Because it's really much to do about nothing until we get enough of these games under our belt. Chris,
let me ask you this before we go to break, and then I want to get some NFL as well. I was looking at some the top 10 college football coaches on winning percentage. Ryan Day is number one on active coaches at 87.5%, followed by Kirby Smart, John Summerall. This is regardless of, G5, P5. The top guy in the country, 87.5%, is basically been told win or go home or do something else. Chris, how did we get to this point? Does Michigan matter for them that much?
For Michigan and Ohio State, it always has mattered a whole lot. Let's remind folks how many games John Cooper won at Ohio State. Now, he could never beat Michigan, and it was a problem. And, he was on the hot seat for years. Now, he survived it for a while, but he was in that same boat that Ryan Day's in for like 5 years. And so I guess now let me say this. If they lose to Michigan, they still get into the playoffs. And if they advance far into the playoffs, they're going to have to get over the fact that they lost to Michigan. And they will, because you do have the playoffs to make up for it. Like if they get to the national championship game or win, or certainly if they win it, really losing to Michigan, and that's the one loss, they're not going to like it, losing to their rival, but they're going to get over it. I think we're in a different world. I think back in the day, as I mentioned with John Cooper, where, if you lost to Michigan, then that was it. You wasn't going to the Rose Bowl, and you certainly had no chance. You lost everything. Now I think there's another path for somebody to get into the playoffs, get hot, and they can make everybody forget that they lost to their rival. And I think that's what it is. But if he loses, and then he also loses like a big game in the playoffs where they're favorites and they're a high seed, that's just where we are now. And I think that because he hasn't won one, I think he's feeling a lot of heat. And I think it is ridiculous, but there's a lot of things that I think are ridiculous that are just reality in today's sports world.
Chris Landry, make sure to find him at Landry Football on X, LandryFootball.com. We're brought to you by Ranco Transmission, 1460 Old Brandon Road in Flowood, 601-939-9184, 50-plus years foreign and domestic transmission repair. We've got to take a time out. Another segment coming your way with Chris back in just a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The time has come to go back.
Back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly. With the hottest sports stories of the day.
for one of those moments that only happens
Right here.
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online
At the Zone, 1059.com.
We're brought to you by New South Neurospine, Mississippi's Spine Center. NS2.MD. That's your website, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on Saturdays, 8 to 1. Swing in today, or swing in during the day, rather. They're closed right now. Swing in tomorrow or the rest of the week. They'll take you. And, of course, if you want to learn more, schedule an appointment, NS2.MD. Chris Landry on your radio, as you can find him on X at Landry Football, LandryFootball.com. Chris, when you look at the NFL, and I was going through the list of some wide receiver combinations, and, for fun, some outlets were ranking which division has the best wide receivers. So Beaver and I, and we were having this conversation last hour, kind of jokingly, but you know how sports fans do, volleying stuff around. Tyreek Hill, Jaden Waddle for the Dolphins. You add Odell Beckham Jr. Most say he's washed up. Can he, as a healthy football player this year, with those two guys, can he have some sort of a reconnaissance type year, a bounce back year where he actually has, some productivity on the table for Mike McDaniel?
Look, the key is what you just said. If he can stay healthy, if he can, yes. Because think about the middle of the field being open up, and how that can really affect, particularly the crossing routes, which he's so good at. You've got to keep your safeties deep because of the speed on the outside. He can eat you up over the middle if he's there. Quite frankly, a good tight end, a lot of people can. But he can be really effective if he's healthy. And that's the thing you just can't ignore. San Francisco's really good. The Philadelphia's really good. quietly the Bears are really good. So yeah, there's some others that I put in, but I think that they could challenge for as good as any. But is he going to be healthy for 17 weeks? I tend to doubt that. But if he's healthy enough come playoff time, that'll be interesting to see. And is it enough for them to get home field advantage? I stress there is not a team that needs home field advantage to be successful to the end of the season more than the Miami Dolphins, because the likelihood of having to go Cincinnati, Buffalo, Kansas City, in our crazy weather around the country, we know we could have a January day that's 60. I know that. But the odds are, as we sit here in the heat of August, we think probably going to be pretty cold in those places at that time of year. And that's just not a good formula for them. So they're going to need to get lucky with good weather on the road, warmer weather meaning, or they just need to take care of their business, get home field advantage, and make everybody go to South Beach, and that's their best chance.
Chris, it seems like it's always been that way, right, for the Dolphins. I mean, you go back to Marino, Shula, Duper, Clayton. They couldn't play, it seemed like, north of the Mason-Dixon line when it's cold. Why is that?
Yeah, I think that you get accustomed to it. Tampa had that issue for a while, too. I think you get used to certain things at certain times a year that you're just more comfortable with. I think the fact that, to me, if you're a good running team, there's no reason why you can't be successful, even if you're from a cold weather standpoint. It has a lot to do with how your quarterback plays in that environment. Can he throw the football well in that environment? Tua's got a good arm, but, a lot of how they, in this particular team, likes to work their route concepts, particularly the deep ones, if you got windy weather. And to me, I think it's windy comes a lot with cold weather. That has as much of a factor. Look, if you can run the football, you should be able to win. I don't care where you're from, but I think teams are kind of built with who they play, how they play, where they play, and I think they should be effective. Look, it's a coach that comes from the tree, Kyle Shanahan tree, who believes in the running game. But I think how they try to build their team and their roster, it just hasn't worked well. And you're right. Look, when Marino was there, I didn't think they could run the football well enough. So that was the problem there. And I think they just kind of had, in times that they were really good. Look, there were a time with Zonka and Kick, Shula, they'd go anywhere and go to Pittsburgh and win. But you're right. It seems to have come up short when they're on the road.
Kenny Pickett, he's struggling as, he wasn't going to ever get the job for Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, that's his job. Are you surprised? I mean, we've seen now just about every quarterback in that class outside of Brock Purdy really just kind of morph their way almost out of this league.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with expectations. Kenny Pickett had a really good year at Pitt. He still has ability. I still think he's a type of quarterback that, like most of them, that need help around him. He's not a guy, nor was he ever a guy, that was going to carry the team. Pittsburgh's defense was pretty good. Running game was pretty good. But for him as a rookie, I thought that he struggled with some decision-making. I think coaching has a lot to do. And I don't mean that good coach, bad coach, okay? It's not that. I think you have to have a certain style of coach. You have to teach a certain way, and I think you have to have an offense that is very quarterback friendly for guys to be successful. So in other words, I think if you took a Kenny Pickett and you put him in a different situation, I think you could get better results. But in the end, there's no question he was overdrafted to some degree. There's no question that Zach Wilson was. But now they're fighting a different battle. They are now considered a bust. And so any bad decision that's made is going to there he goes again. Where say, okay, Brock Purdy, he's really proved himself to be a good quarterback. If he makes the same mistake, it's not the end of the world because he's had this success. These guys haven't. And why haven't they? Well, it has a lot to do with their play, but it has a lot to do with the play around them. And I think that the quarterback position, while the most important, it's also the most dependent. And I don't care, even the great ones. I'll say this. I think that no doubt, I don't think anybody would disagree. Patrick Mahomes sets the standard for quarterbacks in this league. And I think you put him anywhere and he elevates just anybody quarterback around. But I ask you, if he was in a bad organization with a bad roster around him, he may make a bad team, fill in the blank, whatever. Put him on the Carolina Panthers, put him on whatever. Just whatever. He makes them better. But I don't think he's winning playoff games like he is in Kansas City with Andy Reid, because you know what? When they weren't playing well last year and he was frustrated, meaning Patrick Mahomes, they played good defense, they ran the football, and they got it to the point where they kind of helped him get to the point where then he could take over when they absolutely needed him to win it in a playoff game. I think that is overlooked. I don't think people either don't understand or they tend to look at the position because they feel like they can see what the quarterback is or isn't. I don't think they truly get how important the play is around every quarterback, and it could make one look bad. I mean, I saw a Patrick Mahomes lose a Super Bowl because they couldn't block a soul in that game, and that has an effect. Drop balls has an effect. Poorly run routes has an effect. Great coaching that can stabilize things, and I think Andy Reid's had a lot to do with his development. I don't know that he's quite the same results if he's not in as good a situation.
Chris Landry, make sure to find him on X at Landry Football. LandryFootball.com is the website. Chris, always appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Look, have a great week. We'll do it again next Monday.
Hey, thank you so much. Take care.
Appreciate it. Chris Landry on your radio, talking a little college and NFL on a Monday. We're brought to you by Sound Communications. They've been around since 1955. Let them help you today. Go to soundcomav.com. Collaborate, design, and build with Sound Communications. Back in just a bit.
Great afternoon.
Right here on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online
Worldwide.
on the Zone 1059.com.
Appreciate Chris Landry jumping in. We're brought to you by BCI. Go to bcipeople.com or call 601-427-4185 or begin your protection plan today. All right, let's see what we got going on over here, as we got several other things to get into while we got time today. Swifties are not happy with Travis Kelce for going to the Morgan Wallen concert the other night. I'm telling you, man, that's like a cult of nobody else's cult. Also, there is a piece by Athlon Sports out. You've seen this? This Deion Sanders, former player, claims Colorado locker room plagued by fights, guns, and money. Have you seen this? This is being taken in a lot of different ways by some of the national media. Athlon's did this hit piece. I'm calling it a hit piece because there's not a lot of quotes in it. It's a lot of just words. So a lot of people are saying that this is, somebody's got it out for Deion Sanders, and this is a, quote, hit piece. But this piece goes into what some of the players that left Colorado have said about the situation there. Quote, it's like a real-life Grand Theft Auto video game, an anonymous former player told Athlon Sports. There are many distractions with fights, guns, and money floating around. The environment is unlike any I've come from before. The comment echoed sentiments expressed by former five-star cornerback Cormani McClain. McClain also dealt with similar issues with his new team, according to this report. Quote, Cormani was taking a lot of heat from everyone, the former player said of McClain. At the same time, Coach Prime was saying he was in the doghouse and needed to improve. Cormani was getting bullied by Shiloh Sanders. After the Oregon State game, Shiloh slapped him several times, which left Cormani screaming, I'm going to kill you, repeatedly. After that, you could tell he wasn't mentally there. it's hard when the coaches you trust are calling you derogatory names on the practice field. Deion Sanders' locker room issues, they say, run deep. Jordan Seaton, another 5-star recruit, allegedly faced similar bullying and was picked to fight former Colorado lineman Savion Washington in order to, quote, to prove his manhood, according to Athlons. Athlons states that 2 came to blows in April, leaving each bloodied. Meanwhile, Colorado commit Ebenezer Bozie was arrested for allegedly threatening a girl with a gun 6 months before he was charged with misdemeanor battery stemming from incidents last year, courtesy of the Naples Daily News. So, again, there's a lot of... Athlons has always been a credible magazine. It's a credible website, I guess. It's been out there for years, right? We all read it. But there's a lot of he said, she said in this piece, and it's taken... a lot of the national media have kind of picked it apart over the last day or two. A lot of it calling it just a hit piece with no credibility. So I don't know. And to my knowledge, Deion hasn't really spoken of this. So do you tend to believe this piece, Man of Leisure, Mr. Producer? Well, first off, is Athlons a credible news source? Let's start there. Do you believe... And Athlons puts out a ton of content every day, all the time. Do you believe in Athlons?
The only time I ever read Athlon is their preseason magazine they put out. Honest to God, didn't know they were putting out daily content.
On the website. That's it.
I am not going to go all in and say, oh, yeah, I absolutely believe this. It's questionable, might be an axe to grind from a former player, but I would slightly lean believing it more than not.
It's probably half truths in there. Mm-hmm. Here's where I look at that from where we sit. Now, while we didn't have, nor did anybody, instant access to Deion Sanders here, because he gave nobody access, you still had tentacles inside the building that you would have known if things like this were going on. That would have come out. To this day, on the 5th day of August, 2024, I have never heard anything like that coming out of his time at Jackson State. That seems a little much. So every building has issues, especially when you start putting 85 to 100 and something, people in a building. And you're talking about tons of testosterone, a lot of egos. That's every football facility in the country. So you're going to have some stuff that happens. The whole let them fight thing, that goes on all the time. Daniel Jones is starting fights in public. So I can't really give credence to that. I could see Shiloh Sanders maybe being a little bit of a bully. Could you?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Daddy.
Yeah, could see that.
There's preferential treatment, man. That dude lets his sons do whatever.
But I don't know that this thing is this rogue fights, guns, and money. Like this, the Wild Wild West, out west.
Yeah, this isn't the NBA. It's kind of harder to believe. I mean, it'd be easier to believe in what the way things are today in sports, in all locker rooms, really. I don't know that it would go that far, though, at a college. Now, a major college, that is.
Unnamed texture sounds like a thug university. I can't give it that. Because I don't think all of that's going on. That's why a lot of writers are talking about this on X, saying, wait a minute, we need a little more. Now, one went as far, though, as to say that Athlon should be sued for this. I don't know that I want to go that far. For slander. Would you call this slander? I mean, if it's not true, then absolutely. But if you've got former players saying things, Athlon's writes a piece, well, then they got what they wanted out of it. What? We're talking about it. Other people are talking about it. National reporters are talking about it. People are clicking on the article, reading it. So I don't know. But Athlons, I have noticed they do a lot of Colorado content. They're constantly reporting on Colorado. So is it more, and they're one of the only publications that still give them massive amounts of coverage. And maybe it's for the clicks. I don't know. Just something to keep an eye on. So what do you think about Swifties being furious at Travis Kelce for going to the Morgan Wallen concert? Do you have
Yes, saw that this morning. It's dumb.
Do you have any take on that? Other than Swifties are dumb?
Whatever, man. It's a bunch of trash. Yeah, Morgan Wallen was out there, the trash singer. He brought Travis Kelce out there, trash. It's these Swifties. I don't want to go trash, but why? Why? You get upset over every little thing because what was the issue again?
Oh, he was there with Morgan Wallen.
With Morgan Wallen. Oh, but yeah, because Morgan Wallen has had, his issues. Oh, there was also had an issue with, it was also mentioned that he was wearing what they thought was a Harrison Butker jersey.
And it was not.
It wasn't. It just had Waylon's last name on the back. But yeah, that was the issue too. Because the Swifties should be upset over that too. So it's all stupid. It's all nonsense, as always. There you go reading it again, though.
Who?
You.
I'm just reporting the news.
Dude, for someone who sat here and got like the most disgusted over Swiftie coverage in 23, you have been loving it ever since.
No.
You have been keeping the fire burning. That fire, the season ended and you said, why should this fire die? I'm going to keep on reading these pointless stories every day.
Now, to be fair, I haven't reported on a Swiftie story in weeks, maybe months.
Oh, good. You act like that's forever. You act like that's a long time, though. We shouldn't be reporting these Swiftie stories hardly ever.
And I mean, I don't know how much of a fire I can keep going. I mean, only like 7 people listen to this show, so it's a small fire.
You have talked more about Taylor Swift than the Olympics now. Do you realize this? Let's look at it that way.
I would say that you're probably right about that.
You re-examine yourself.
Hey, is Brandon Ayuk getting traded?
I don't think so.
Okay. The other reason why on X, this Around the NFL, which has 893,000 followers, they report Brandon Ayuk more likely to be traded than sign the extension with the 49ers, no trade in place. And then Ian Rappaport shares it with some like confused looked emoji. Like what? Because you would think if anybody knew, would you trust Around the NFL or Ian Rappaport?
Rappaport.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if anybody's going to know firsthand, it's going to be him. So I don't think he's getting traded. Again, probably another clickbait deal, right? Rhett Cetera. I count for at least 2 listeners because I do it with love. Yes, Rhett, you do, and I appreciate that. Livier is currently listening, so it's 8 people officially listening to the show right now. That is good. We're on an uptick. We're 100% on an uptick. What's that?
Louvier is currently moved into the third person camp. I just noticed that.
Yeah. Why don't you do that for the whole football season? Refer to yourself in the third person.
Why would I do that? What would that have to do with football?
Oh, it's just football season. So you're just going to create a different version of yourself. Hey, are you doing the hair thing this year?
No.
What?
No, I didn't do that last year either.
So you're not going to bring it back?
No.
Let's see. Res Dog. I just turned you off for talking about Swifties. So no more Swiftie talk, but we do have to take a time out. We're brought to you by the Westin Jackson. Go to westinjackson.com. Learn more today. Staycations. Coming in town, great place to stay. Also meeting rooms, boardrooms. Grab something great to eat at a Stale Southern table, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week, 601-968-8200. Back in a bit.
Okay, we're back.
I'm ready.
It's more of the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly,
Where he's
Live.
and local
on Jackson Sports Authority
ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online.
at thezone1059.com.
Final segment on a Monday. We're brought to you by Went McGee. He is the mortgage man. Online at mortgagemanms.com, 601-906-7074. Mortgagemanms.com. We appreciate Chris Lange jumping in. We'll be at Madison Central tomorrow with Chubby Columns and the Jags as we start to look into high school football, really look into programs going around the metro area. Madison Central tomorrow, Hartfield on Wednesday, Jackson Academy on Thursday. We're going to be doing some stuff with Ameristar Casino on Friday, and then, of course, we'll be back at it. We're going to hit as many as we can. We're going to Brandon, Pearl, Northwest Rankin, Florence. We're going to Terry. We're going to Clinton, Holmes County Central. We're going to try to get all we can. Wish we could do them all, but unfortunately, that is not the case. So we'll see what we can get into. Tomorrow, we will be over at the Jungle with Toby Collins. Looking forward to being over there and visiting with Madison Central, as they should have a heck of a football team this year. It should be one of the best in the state of Mississippi, could be the best. We're going to unpack all that and see. All right, let's see here real quickly as we look and see what we did miss today. So there was a man sadly arrested threatening to shoot Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce at the Morgan Wallen concert. Maybe we just need to ban Morgan Wallen concerts. Seems like something always bad happens at those things, or around Morgan Wallen. Seems like it happens. Also, you'll be interested to know this. Argentina wants to use AI to predict future crimes. What could go wrong with that? That sounds like a lot could go wrong, right? What if we used predictive AI to predict crimes and you got thrown in the middle of that? And to my knowledge, unless you're hiding some secrets, you could be. I don't know that you've ever been in a crime in your life, have you? I mean, maybe you have.
I stole a Joe Montana football card one time. It's the only thing I can never remember stealing. I really wanted that football card.
Where did you steal this thing from?
Kroger.
Really? Did you admit it? Did you get in trouble for it?
Mm-mm.
You never told anybody. You went loose lips, sink sips, ships mentality, and just buttoned up.
Yeah, until what? Let's see. I was still living in South Jackson, which that was 30 years ago this month. Made my journey to Pearl. It's my anniversary. So this was at least 30 years ago. So yeah, up until now, I just kept it with me.
So this is the first. You just told the world this. Well, the 8 people that's listening to this show.
I think somehow we got on this one other time, but yeah, that's it. It's the only thing I can remember ever stealing. It was just a random card. I even opened up a pack though. It's just in the middle of the aisle.
So here's where AI could get you for you telling that on public radio. You know, we got the card shop up here at the front of the building in this shopping center. They have all those. I don't even know if they have sports cards. I guess they do. Never been in the place. Have you ever been in there?
Mm.
And you just walk in there and see what all they got one day just to see.
I tell you who goes in there a fair amount. Rob J.
Really?
Rob J is a comics nerd.
I had no idea.
And he'll go into Vans. I think it's been a little bit, but he used to tell me like multiple times about walking in there.
So let's play this out. We follow Argentina's lead here. We're going to use AI to predict future crimes. Because you have put this out in the stratosphere, and AI can likely grab it. Now, all of a sudden, Vans, which is right at the front of the building, maybe AI combs all of the systems and YouTube and all of the information, and they say, hey, based on the data that we have, these are the hot times of the year that card places are hit. Maybe they're robbed. And then the fact that your proximity is in the same location, and the fact that there is a percentage of a chance because you stole a Joe Montana 30 card 30 years ago, using this strategy, you could get arrested as a potential hazard for robbery.
Wait a minute. Now, I know that we're not dealing with a human brain, but even AI's got to have some sort of statute of limitations.
Somebody said, this isn't a Tom Cruise. Isn't that a Tom Cruise movie? It sounds like one, doesn't it? Sounds like some weird movie Tom Cruise would be in. Heck, he's probably done something like that, hasn't he? I don't watch all of Tom Cruise's movies.
This was an episode of Futurama, too. It was the year 3000, and they had a robot at the police department that was predicting crimes.
Really? So Argentina's just trying to bring that to life. GW, that movie with Tom Cruise. Or he said The Minority Report. Was it The Minority Report? Colonel Mustard. Morgan Wallen equals Marilyn Manson. Also, AI is the definition of profiling. That is true. ResDog, you just stole 10 minutes of my life talking about this crap. Sorry, ResDog. DB, there's no statute of limitations on sports memorabilia. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Also, let's see what else is out here. Looking through the notes, I got to find out more about this DJ Lagway guy. You know, we have heard this before at Florida. Some of it has turned out to be true at times, and some of it is not. And here's some of the true stuff. We heard Tim Tebow was going to be a phenom, and he was. We heard that Cam Newton was possibly a phenom. Now, he had to go the route because he stole a laptop. He had to go to junior college in Kansas by way of Auburn before we saw it. We heard that Anthony Richardson is a phenom. Even though he was drafted in the first round last year, are we still sure of this? Are we still sure that he's a phenom? Do we have enough to say yes, even though, yeah, well, of course he is. He was drafted first round. I don't care. Kenny Pickett was drafted in the first round too. Matt Corral, well, no, he was third round. Let's see, who else? What was the kid for the Jets? That little guy?
Little guy.
Yeah.
Little guy.
Yeah, he had the hot mom. Jets quarterback.
Oh, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. Let's also go back. Jake Locker.
Yep.
There's a name that was first round.
So are we sure, as Colonel Mustard said, Ryan Leaf, enough said, are we sure that he's a phenom, Anthony Richardson? He's a freak athlete. But I don't know that he's a phenom. So this Lagway character that's at Florida, supposedly he's the next one coming through. He's the next guy. He is. I got somebody messaged me on X earlier when we were talking about this. And man, he's stud, phenom. When will we get to see this Lagway character?
Oh, well, from the way it sounds, it's going to be this year.
Pretty quickly. GW said that's a 22-year-old movie. The Minority Report. I thought it had some length behind it. All right. I think we've about done enough damage today. Anything else we did not get to?
Yeah, you looked over RT.
Uh-oh.
His text here. He did something, and you know he's proud of it, and then you just overlooked it.
I'm sorry. Let me go back over here. The story of Travis going to that concert should be over fairly swiftly, but it's tailor-made for a little drama. That's actually pretty good.
I know.
You got to give him some credit on that one.
That's why I didn't want you to miss it. RT and his wordplay.
No, that's actually really good. RT, that may be the best text you've ever sent. All right, let's see what else is going on. I'm trying to see if we missed anything. I don't think so. When is Tom Brady going to start doing? Is he doing any preseason games?
I don't know. Preseason. Tom Brady's a quarterback. It's beneath him.
To do preseason games?
Yeah.
Let's see.
He didn't do them when he played.
And I haven't seen what this is. Somebody on here says, can't wait for a linebacker from North Dakota State with a chip on his shoulder, bigger than Mount Everest, to snap these dudes in half. Oh, he's talking about Colorado. So Deion Sanders is out here giving some pep talk at a practice. Are you still going with North Dakota State in the ballgame here in 3 weeks? Well, 4 weeks for that game.
Might as well.
I think I am too. We appreciate Chris Landry jumping in. Tomorrow we'll be at Madison Central. Of course, we'll still be talking all kinds of stuff as well. Tomorrow, though, it's about the Jags. RT Brady doing preseason as a bunch of bull. Probably so. Remember, ketchup is king, bacon's a delicacy, aloha means goodbye. Be a man of increase. See you tomorrow.